So Blow, you're working with Ted Demme on Blow. What attracted you to the part? Because it's a drug movie, but it's a drug movie which doesn't kind of speak out against drugs. It kind of leaves it up to the
Yeah,
viewer, the audience.
I think it's just really, I mean, one of the more interesting things about the film for me was that it just tells the story, you know. It just tells the story of the guy's life, of George Young's life, and the effects of the choices that he made, right or wrong, and the effects of drug use, and what happened to him in his life. So it was less of a drug movie for me. It was more about, you know, what happened to this little kid and where he went, you know.
Was meeting George himself, was that a kind of a key point in you deciding to do the
Oh
movie?
yeah, it was everything because, I mean, you know, I'd read the book and I knew quite a bit about him, but you know, I mean, to go and meet the real guy and to, you know, so you sit down with this person in this cubicle, you know, inside concertina wire and steel bars and say, okay, you know, give it to me. Nice to meet you. Spill your guts. Tell me all the positives and negatives and fears and, you know. So it was very intense 2 days we spent together.
I mean, it's inevitably got a downbeat ending to the movie because of where George finds himself
Yeah.
in his life. Was that something which, I mean, well, for start, what's going to happen to George? Is that something which concerns you? I know Ted's very much keeping in touch with him, but is there, we don't want to get in the whole drug issue here, but is that something, are you still in touch with the guy? I mean, do you think the movie will help him in any way?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, because I'm over here in Europe, so we don't really talk too much by phone, but we correspond and sort of send messages to one another. What George really is trying to do now, he was hit with a very harsh sentence on the last bust, mainly because they wanted to make an example of him. The people who were busted at the same time as George on the exact same bust were given 2 years, I think, or 3 years, which means they'll serve, if it's federal time, they'll serve 74% of their sentence. So George was given 25 years. So he won't get out of prison until he's 72 years old, which will be 2014 or 15, which will be a little too late for him to try and pay his debt to his family, to his daughter, you know. But I mean, he's coping. He's doing really well. He's doing, in fact, he's doing a lot of work with the DARE program, to try and tell his story, to try and, you know, help people understand the dangers, you know.
Drugs is one of those issues that, of course, as soon as you start talking about it, there's a knee-jerk reaction from certain aspects of the press, and this movie has obviously, you know, encouraged that, or rather, has raised that issue once again. You know, are you surprised when you do a movie which doesn't come down clearly against something, which is obviously not a good force in society? It's I suppose, quite a tough call to get involved with something.
Well, because I mean, people said to me, you know, you being a father now, you know, everything. Why would you do a film that glamorizes drugs? And I don't see it that way at all. I mean, I think that the kind of ghost of the drugs, you know, sort of creates this atmosphere as if it is a party, or you know, there's that lie, you know, that it is all just a big party, and that's the kind of facade, you know. But the reality of what it does to you, the effects that it can have on your life, pretty severe. I don't think George's massive coronary at the birth of his daughter is glamorizing drug use by any means. I don't think George ending up in prison, quite possibly for the rest of his days, is glamorizing drug use. I think it's, like I said, just telling the story.
For Johnny Depp fans, of course, which we know there are one or two left out there.
There are one, yeah. My mom.
It's quite a change to see you with the kind of the slightly going bald and carrying the extra weight at the end of the movie. I was hoping that this was a kind of method approach, and I'd now find you looking just as unattractive. But I think that was quite a weird thing to have been wearing, I would imagine.
The gut, yeah, the gut and the mullet and the prosthetics and stuff. Yeah, you know, it was kind of frightening. But we just, you know, I mean, George's life, you know, I mean, and you know, living in prison, living on prison food, living on the prison diet, living, you know, that whole regime, and it's not the most healthy atmosphere. Yeah, we tried to make it look as much like the real George as possible, you know.
Can I ask you a little bit about working with Tim Burton briefly? Because I'm just about to go out and do something with Tim. Because you've been in how many movies with Tim now? 3 films?
3, yeah.
3 films.
3.
What is it about working with Tim Burton that you like so much? What are his qualities?
I mean, he's just amazing, you know. Tim is one of the great visionaries, you know, one of the only visionaries in modern cinema. I mean, he's a true original, and you know, in the same exact way that you know Hitchcock was. I mean, he's amazing, and he can only make the films that come out of him. You know, I mean, he can't. He's not a traffic cop in that way. You know, he's just a true original, and we have a great time. You know, we end up cackling constantly. You know, on the set, and even though he may like sort of make his hand you know, make a hand motion or turn his head a certain way and say like 3 words and then skip to the end of the sentence. We've developed this kind of language. I understand what he wants. I know what he wants. You know.
Is it true that he does a killer Sammy Davis Jr. impersonation?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, and a great. And when you see him, ask him to do Georgie Jessel, because we terrorized each other on the set of Sleepy Hollow, where to the point of where like I was standing in the wings getting ready to, you know, walk into the scene. You know, the camera's rolling, the whole thing, and all of a sudden I would hear from the monitor back there, and action. It was you know, like to keep a straight face when you're walking in. It was.
Speaking about keeping a straight face, let's go back to Blow for a minute. Is it true that you would try your best to put Penelope Cruz off when she was shooting the more intense dramatic scenes?
Well, you know, I mean, to give everybody their due, because they did deal with my sophomoric humor, all of them. I did it to everybody. I mean, you know, we hid fart machines all over the place. Yeah, it was sort of, yeah, just terrorized the actors constantly. But Penelope was a very good sport about it. It was nice to see that, you know, she could submerge herself into sort of her work and, you know, the intensity of her work, and then come back out and still have a sense of humor about it.